All right, so what are your
Everyone else
names?
has been mad.
What are your names?
That's the sound. That's the sound of angels that could invest, flapping their wings and flying far away to our side.
That's the sound of readers clicking away from this post. Your names.
Yeah.
This is
Kevin Capricorn.
And Josh.
7/28, 1982.
Joshua Crane.
And Kevin and Josh are launching a new startup called Clusterr, and it is a media sharing tool that takes advantage of your Twitter social graph and not your Twitter social graph to help you optimize your media consumption habits during the day. Is that accurate?
Oh, that was pretty good. Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, basically, about a year ago, Josh and I were having a conversation, and we wanted to build a widget for my blog because I was sending out Flickr photos and videos and all this other media, and I realized, well, Twitter was sort of Grand Central Station for all that. Eventually, all these services wrapped back to Twitter, and that's what was sending out the messages. And we thought, well, holy shit, he would like that service too. I wanted that service, so maybe we should just build the service and see what happens. And so we spent a year taking financial and emotional risks and clutching each other and crying a lot. And here we are with ourselves and two coders a year later. And Clusterr with 2 R's, because it saved us millions of dollars, is a bit of a reality. You can use the service and filter all videos, photos, websites, and music that your friends are sharing and listening to.
But I want to go back to your description of it a little bit. I mean, we started with sort of a media discovery engine, and then it quickly evolved beyond media discovery into media aggregation and curation of content. And so we're part media aggregator, or part media discovery engine, but also sort of part media publishing and broadcasting tool, if you will. It gives the users the ability to sort of self-publish, self-curate smaller sort of subsets of content.
So, who else is in this space? In the moving away from the timeline social aggregation space.
No one's moving away from the timeline. They're coming up with interesting ways to display the timeline. There are applications like Flipboard that's sort of taken the timeline and made it more magazine-esque. There are other aggregation services like Redux that have taken the timeline and made it somewhat more complex and given individual timelines for types of media. We've yet to see someone out there that's just trying to pull media forward without the timeline. There are some, like Magma, that just do this for one particular media type. So we're somewhat different from them in that we're going across videos, pictures, music, and also across all of the sites that support OEmbed.
Right.
But there's no one out there. Our real big bent here was try and keep the interface as simple as possible.
What are some of the challenges of doing this?
Having a whiteboard filled with bullet points and ideas, and then having a wallet that is not nearly as large as our whiteboard, and having a clock that constantly ticks. And the crushing fear that any day a behemoth in the industry could try to implement what we're doing. I think that has been a real eye-opening experience, and it's just a real management of those features, management of our resources. That's been the biggest issue, the biggest challenge. But we're super proud of where we've got in a year, and we've already got the next year laid out, and we hope to get there sooner than CES 2012.
Yeah, I mean, we've totally bootstrapped the application ourselves. It's really just us and two coders. So, the financial aspect of it has always been somewhat of a challenge. Some of our competition's out spending millions of dollars to develop a web service. We were able to do that with far less money. Clearly, we want to source some funding to be able to continue to grow and to continue to fuel it. Right. But I think that was one of our biggest pain points. I'd say another one was just keeping ourselves on task, in that we're both very sort of passionate and creative. And, there was immediately 1,000 features that we could have put into this. But being diligent and keeping it back to the core vision and focusing on what's actually important, what's actually going to make an application that we still want to use, we've had to be somewhat diligent and cautious of not going, overboard and not sort of throwing everything but the kitchen sink in there. Right?
So in one sentence, what problem is this solving?
Finding the signal within the noise.
Yeah.
Which I think described all of every internet site for the last 10 years. But no, I really think that is. I mean, we joked on our blog. We put media is king and we shine its crown. And we thought that was kind of cute. But, I love using the service every day to discover new videos and silly photos and cool songs. And so for me, it found the signal in the noise, which is what I wanted.
What are some of your future? Oh, go, Josh. Your sentence.
No, I agree with that.
+1.
I'll take this challenge.
I think ultimately, the problem that we're solving is that the timeline and text is a really bad way to consume media. It's a really bad way to discover media. And so the problem ultimately, when you write that very traditional business plan, you outline your problem and the solution, the problem is that Twitter in mass is a very, very bad way to consume the latest and greatest. And so we wanted to bring that latest and greatest forward and get rid of the tweets about I'm walking my dog or I'm eating breakfast. Not that those aren't interesting, but they're not interesting in terms of what's influencing the world of media.
But you got a photo of that dog, or you got a video of that breakfast?
Totally interesting.
Fuck yeah, bring it on. We'll cluster the shit out of it.
What are some of your future plans, both for company expansion and product expansion? Like, where do you go? How many users do you have now, and how do you grow that number?
Right, we've got a very small user group that's basically the group that was our private beta. So just through friends and family and a little bit of word of mouth, we were able to accumulate about 5,000 beta users to help us look at the early versions of the app and help us kind of figure out what's important, what's not. In terms of the future, it was very easy for us to build this to fully leverage the Twitter API. A real true social aggregator needs to go across more than one social platform. So Facebook integration and other services, perhaps like Reddit, et cetera, are definitely on the short-term roadmap.
Right. And then feature-wise, I think recommendation is going to be a big deal. We give the user the power now to kind of curate. But if you don't want that experience, if you want media to be recommended to you, obviously that is a hot space, and it's a hot space we want to be in because we can do it across multiple services and multiple media types. We can say you like these videos from this person, great. You might also like their music, and then leveraging stuff like a cloud API to see the influencers of the influencers and pull all that content in. So that way we can get within 2 to 3 clicks, we can kind of look at that. I want to say that the social media recommendation graph, but if we can own that space a little bit and custom tailor it to within 2 to 3 clicks, make really educated guesses as to what kind of content you want to consume and pipe it to you dynamically, we will.
And we want to go beyond the, recommendations today are people who bought this also bought that. So the person that watched this video also watched these videos. And we want to start to, that's a valid data point. But there's more data points that we want to layer in to actually make it more proprietary and useful recommendation engine. You may like more cat videos, but you may have also only liked that video because it had a particular actor in it, or et cetera. We want to get a little more granular with recommendations.
I mean, like the topics-based recommendations. Is that what you're?
Well, I think it can be by topic. It can be by influencer. It can be by topic. It can be by keyword.
Yeah, keywords.
It could be by trend. It could also just be by popularity. And so there's this. We're basically working on now behind the scenes is this algorithm that, and we're actively debating what's more important. Is it more important that someone also liked this video? Is it more important that there's a hashtag in that tweet? What really makes something important in terms of relevance. And so, not that we are going to go out and reinvent what relevance is, but we are trying to...
It's not a beautiful mind behind the scenes, and we're drawing algorithms in the air or anything like that. It's mostly wingdings and pictograms. But we're working on solving it. And then we're HTML5 and Ruby, which, what does that mean to anybody? Well, it means we play nice on your iPads and on your Google TVs already, but we'd like to have dedicated apps for all those platforms to make the experience as good as it can be.
Right, so that's certainly a big part of the roadmap is to get native applications that we can, really take advantage of the technology there and the interface that we can, we've done a really great interface with HTML5, but WebKit doesn't support all of it, mouse hovers, et cetera. So putting together a really slick sort of mobile application, iPad, tablet friendly, iPhone, Android friendly is definitely in the short-term roadmap.
Awesome.
And more awesome sauce.
And then finally on the roadmap is the notion that yes, we built this as a product that we actually wanted. And no, we didn't come at this from a true sort of entrepreneurial, hey, there's a market to exploit here. But we do want to make money with this service, so we will ultimately probably charge for those mobile apps. But we also think there's a real licensing strategy here that we'd like to explore, i.e. brands, celebrities that are looking to leverage what they do on Twitter and the conversation between their audience and that sort of one-to-one connection between them and their audience, start to bring forward either media from those brands to their audience or media from that audience back to that brand. I'm a big Lakers fan, so I use the Lakers as an example a lot. It'd be very easy for us to put together a custom cluster for the Lakers that brought out pictures that fans took at the stadium, right? Courtside videos that reporters were putting out, and that would be a really neat way to sort of show that the Lakers were supporting their community, and ultimately the Lakers own that brand. but they don't own that content that a user went and created about it. But this allows them to go aggregate back in that user-generated content to help support their brand. Every other, G4, for example, I built it when I was there, has a great interface for the Twitter timelines of all the Attack of the Show hosts. You can tab through and just see Kevin's and just see the other hosts or see the behind the scenes or put them all together in one. But at the end of the day, it's still just text.
Yeah, all that rich media is gone. So, again, we're going to bring it forward. Find that signal in the noise, Alexia.
Thanks, guys. So that's Clusterr.com. It's ready to try out now. It's Twitter OAuth, so it's incredibly easy. I found that part of it really great. Thank you for talking with us.
Thank you very much.